Welcome everyone. I'm 𝘵𝗵𝗏 and I'll be your moderator today. Thank you so much for joining us here at Netcom Learning, a market leader in promoting lifelong learning, training, and talent development solutions. We are very excited to host today's event, PMP Certification Explained, a career and leadership credential for every professional. And it is my pleasure now to introduce today's instructor. Arun Sharma is a seasoned project management professional and corporate trainer with over 20 years of experience across industry and professional training. He spent 14 years with organizations such as Reliance and Flipkart, followed by 6 years as a full-time trainer, delivering structured, outcome-driven programs for professionals across industries. Arun brings a strong real-world and leadership-focused perspective to today's session, helping learners understand how PMP principles apply to practical business challenges, stakeholder management, and organizational delivery. Now, please bear in mind that this is an overview of a very robust topic. We offer a collection of technical and business courses that can be tailored to your specific requirements. If you are interested in a further discussion, you can make an appointment with our learning consultants through our website at netcomlearning.com. Today's session is also being recorded, so you'll get free access to the recording in the next 24 hours via email. Netcom Learning helps customers build innovative learning organizations by achieving a smarter workforce, adapting to change, and driving growth. We do this with a broad catalog of offerings, developing customized learning plans, and our global delivery capabilities. Since 1998, we have been empowering organizations with our managed learning services to help them reach optimal performance results and address challenges. We do have 9 practice areas in which we specialize. They encompass people, process, and technology training. And today's presentation is from the Business Process Practice area. Netcom Learning offers a comprehensive training portfolio of courses for the topic being covered today. Our upcoming classes include various trainings on the given courses. You can also access a variety of marketing assets, such as the free training and blogs, by clicking on the available event handout. These offerings can be found with a simple search on our website at netcomlearning.com. Across industries, professionals are increasingly expected to manage initiatives, align stakeholders, and deliver outcomes, often without a formal framework or recognized leadership credential. Today's session will provide a clear, practical overview of how the PMP certification helps build leadership capability, supports career progression from early roles to senior leadership, and creates value across organizations. The goal is to clarify what PMP represents today and how professionals can prepare for the next stage of their careers. And now I would like to give you a quick overview of the logistics before we get started. To begin with, you do have the option to view in full screen by clicking on the full screen button on the right side of the GoToWebinar viewer. Simply hit the escape key to exit the full screen. Everyone has been muted except for our presenters. Feel free to submit any questions you have for the presenters here in the questions pane, and we will address them at the end of the session. And to get the best out of today's events, we've included the slides, courses we talk about, and marketing assets in the handout section of your GoToWebinar viewer. You may refer to them at any time to get a better understanding of today's topic. And we do realize that some of you may have to leave early and want to let you know that as you do leave the session today, you will be presented with a short survey. We would like to request for you to take a quick moment to participate in that survey. Your feedback really helps us understand your learning experience and improve our future sessions for you. The survey answers are measured on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 representing outstanding and 1 representing poor. Hey, Arun, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here and investing your time today. My name is Arun, and I'll be taking you through this webinar, which is on PMP certification. The objective of this webinar is to explain how PMP can be a career and leadership credential for every professional. And I really want to be very upfront here. This session is not about exam tricks, certification marketing, or memorizing frameworks. It's about something more fundamental. And that is where we need to understand how modern work actually happens and why so many capable professionals still feel stressed, and still under-recognized. When we look at this webinar and when we look at PMP, PMP is simply the lens we'll use today. It's not a destination, but it is a way to understand structured leadership in an increasingly unstructured world. Let's start with a very basic question. I'm sure you can see it on the screen. Who here does not work in projects anymore, right? I usually pause here intentionally because this question answers itself. Almost no one today works in a role that is repetitive, isolated, and predictable end to end. Most of us deal with deadlines, dependencies, stakeholders, and change every single day. And that's the beauty of our work, where we don't even realize that we are working in projects, even though that's exactly what we are doing. Now, this disconnect is important because when you don't name something correctly, you don't prepare for it correctly. I would request each one of you to please keep that in mind as we move forward. The truth about modern work: if your work has a defined outcome, if it involves multiple people or teams, if it has uncertainty, and if it is supposed to be delivered within a time frame, that is a project, whether your destination says or not. Projects are temporary, cross-functional, they've got uncertainty, and they are deadline driven. They must have a definite start and definite end with a definite outcome. Now, this definition applies to product launches, system upgrades, audits, transformations, process changes, and even to an extent, strategic initiatives. The challenge is that while the nature of work has changed, the way professionals are prepared has not kept pace. So the question becomes, are we equipped to lead in this environment, or are we improvising every day? That is what we need to figure out. What I've seen from my experience is that a lot of us become project leaders by accident and not by design. We are given responsibility before we are given any structure. We are expected to deliver before we are taught how to think about delivery. So we rely on intuition, we rely on past experience, and we rely on working harder, which works up to a point. But as complexity increases, intuition becomes inconsistent, and learning only after failure becomes expensive. There's another thought that I want each one of you to look at. Why smart people still deliver bad outcomes. And this is indeed one of the hardest truths for high performers to accept. Trust me, you can be talented and still deliver inconsistent outcomes. You can put in extraordinary effort and still miss expectations. You can have years of experience without being able to repeat success reliably. Organizations don't reward intelligence or effort in isolation. They reward dependable outcomes. And I hope you recall that we did talk about project's definition where we said that it is about definite outcomes. Everything is tied to outcomes. Now, that dependability comes from structured thinking, not individual heroics. These are some of the root causes because of which projects fail. Rarely you would find reasons which are technical in nature. Projects fail because expectations possibly were not aligned. Decisions were delayed or avoided. Ownership was ambiguous, or leadership reacted instead of anticipating. In fact, as a project professional, one of the first things that you're taught is that you're responsible for the decisions that you take, and you're also responsible for the decisions that you do not take. Look at the reasons closely, and you'll realize that something is missing here. This slide never talked about, and I will not talk about tools, templates, and softwares. Those are not the reasons. Now, this tells us something very important. Project success is primarily a leadership problem, not a technical one. Experience teaches us how to survive situations. It does not automatically teaches us how to scale success. A lot of professionals repeat the same year of experience multiple times without improving their decision quality, and that becomes the problem. Without a framework, experience becomes anecdotal rather than transferable. And that's when people feel stuck despite being senior, experienced. And that's a trap. We should try and avoid it. And that's why it has been said globally, you'll find this in a lot of articles. Continuous learning is one of the most important things that you can do, not to yourself, but to everyone. It's a way to possibly respect your individuality, respect your experience, and respect others. In many organizations, the person who fixes the mess gets visibility, and that's true. But on the other hand, if I look at the person who quietly prevents the mess, rarely gets noticed until something really breaks. Now, this creates a culture where firefighting is rewarded and prevention is undervalued. In the long term, this is not sustainable. You must get into the prevention mode. In fact, Philip Crosby, who is one of the quality theorists, has always talked about prevention over correction. Informal leadership works well in small, close-knit teams. But as organizations grow, as your team size grows, complexity increases exponentially. You'll have more stakeholders, you'll have more dependencies, you'll have more risks, you will have more variables and high uncertainty. And at that point, leadership based purely on intuition starts to fail. Structure is scalability. It's not bureaucracy. That's what we need to keep in mind. A lot of us don't realize this. The cost of getting it wrong. We don't anticipate it. Once we start anticipating this, trust me, we will always prefer a fail-safe approach. We'll plan for failures. How many of us really plan for failures? I mean, look at in anything that you do. I mean, let's talk about PMP certification only. We just keep on talking about that we will do this, 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 and this to pass the exam. But why don't we look at from the other way? Let's look at all the possible reasons because of which people fail, and let's ensure that those things don't take place, at least in your attempt. Most likely the output is going to be, or the outcome is going to be, that you have passed your PMP exam. In similar fashion, planning for failure is considered a taboo. Most organizations don't fail because of bad ideas. They fail because good ideas are executed inconsistently. Now, the gap between intent and outcome is where value is lost. And that is where strong project leadership becomes critical. It's very important for you to figure out the cost of getting it wrong. There's one more thing, very similar concept to this, which is obviously there in PMP. I don't want to go and talk about it, but I just want to introduce it here in this webinar. A lot of us talk about quality. A lot of us want, standardized processes, standardized procedures, frameworks to be used. But there's something very important which we don't ever talk about, and that's called cost of quality, which is nothing but cost of conformance plus cost of non-conformance. We don't pick up that lens to look at quality. If we start looking at quality from that lens, we will have a very standard, acceptable product. PMP is not just another course. If PMP was just another set of processes or templates, it won't have the global relevance it does. You have more than 1.7 million PMP certificate holders across the globe. The mistake many people make is treating PMP as content to memorize rather than thinking to adopt. Its value lies not in what it teaches you to do, but how it trains you to think. PMP is a mindset. And that's why whenever I take classes with Netcom, I don't talk about processes. I don't talk about templates. I don't talk about frameworks. I talk about the mindset. That the mindset is very important. And we believe in, making this or ensuring that the students have the mindset, the required mindset, not only to pass the exam, but to be able to manage projects more efficiently and effectively. But why PMP? What PMP actually validates? As I said, that it's about a mindset. It provides a mental operating system for leadership in uncertain environment. It helps you decide what matters now, what can wait, and what risks must be addressed proactively. It's about making trade-offs at the right time, at the right moment for the right set of variables. Now, this kind of judgment cannot be automated or delegated. That's why PMP is so valuable. Most professionals do not have formal authority over everyone they depend on. PMP validates your ability to influence, align, and deliver despite that limitation. Now, this is real leadership, not positional power. It gives you the ability to lead without authority. It gives you the structure in your thought process. It allows you to envision clearly. Why organizations trust PMP certificate holders? If you look at the very basic fact, and that is organizations do not want uncertainties. Nobody wants uncertainty. Organizations hire and promote based on risk reduction, the ability to anticipate risks, the ability to proactively identify those risks, plan for those risks, analyze those risks, implement the risk responses. Now, having a PMP reduces uncertainty by signaling that a professional understands the key words such as trade-offs, ethics, and impact, and just not execution. Now, that particular trust is what opens the doors for the PMP certificate holders. The project economy is definitely exploding. Global research consistently shows that the demand for project leadership skills far exceeds the available talent. Now, this gap is not about certifications, it's about capability. And we believe in building that capability together. Those who can lead projects effectively will remain in demand across industries. And one of the other, I would say, most important benefit is that PMP allows you to transition into different industries. I still remember one of my students who has almost 25 years of experience in construction in Middle East was able to secure a job in London, where in UK rather, in his home country, where he eventually managed a software development project. Can you imagine a construction guy coming into software development life cycle and managing a project successfully? And he's very happy doing that. It depends on how you're able to convince about your capability. Why PMP commands a premium? But in what sense? Obviously, salary is one of the aspects, which is an extrinsic factor, but there are certain intrinsic factors which PMP indirectly talks about. The motivation to do the right work is one of the most important things. When I talk about salary, it reflects the market's willingness to pay for reliability, predictability, and leadership maturity that you're going to show once you have the certification. Having PMP is one of the clearest signals of that capability, and it is applicable across industry. But salary is the outcome, not the objective. What really matters is the level of responsibility and influence you are trusted with. PMP supports that progression, and that's very important. But why can't I just learn on the job? Why PMP is needed? And it's a very important question, which a lot of people think about while thinking of taking a plunge towards PMP. Again, from my experience, I've got, I think, all the possible certifications that PMI has. There are 10 core certifications, and I've got all the certifications. And I've, in my experience, seen that unstructured learning is risky. It is inconsistent. It is slow. When you learn purely through experience, you learn through mistakes, which is important. But PMP accelerates learning by giving you access to patterns, and not just incidents. It shortens the feedback loop dramatically. It allows you to speak the common language of project management, which is very important. Think of it in this fashion. All of us know that risk management is important, right? But how many of us actually prepare a risk register? How many of us identify risks proactively? We wait for the things to happen, but PMP instills in your thought process how important it is to be proactive, how important it is to identify risks on a regular basis. A lot of people believe that having a PMP certification is going to be the ultimate truth. No, if you're not accountable, if there is no structure, if there is no ownership, I think PMP is not the answer you should be looking at. No, PMP demands ownership and discipline. If someone prefers ambiguity without accountability, PMP will make you uncomfortable. And that's intentional. When you look at PMP as a certification, and most importantly as a mindset, the focus is on reducing uncertainty. The focus is on making things clear to you, removing ambiguity. It is indeed a certification for you if you are someone who influence people, stakeholders, without authority. If you're someone who is a leader or who can lead projects without designations, if you're someone who can navigate through uncertainty with ease, it is for you if you are someone who feel responsible to own outcomes. Then PMP becomes relevant. It formalizes what you are already doing and helps you do it better. But remember, PMP is role agnostic. I mean, it can PMP or rather PMI, and with its one of the most important certifications, which is PMP, has always indirectly spoken about the need for understanding that roles do not matter, job titles do not matter, departments do not matter. It is the principles, leadership principles that you will learn in the certification, which you can apply everywhere, irrespective of the department you work in, irrespective of the title you carry, irrespective of the role that you perform. And that's why PMP remains industry agnostic as well. I can share from my experience again. As I told, I have got around 10 core certifications from PMI, but I do have certifications from Scrum.org. I do have certifications in SAFe. Each one of this certification has its own advantages. But what I have seen that PMP focuses on judgment. Others talk about processes, methodologies, but PMP is more of a framework. And that's important, isn't it? A lot of us don't really understand the difference between framework and processes or methodologies or processes, procedures. Processes, procedures, methodologies talk about what needs to be done, why it needs to be done, how it needs to be done, when it needs to be done. But when it comes to a framework, it talks about what needs to be done, when it needs to be done, and why it needs to be done. The how part is left to the intellect of the person using the framework. And that's important. That's a very important distinction. And that's why it focuses on judgment. Judgment compounds over time. Tools can change, context changes, but the ability to have the right decision at the right time for the right thing is the most important learning you want to have with PMP certification. When you are not PMP certified, when you do not have access to the structured learning, you are always in survival mode leadership, which is effective short term, but it is exhausting long term. It will not work. It will not sustain in the longer term. You feel that you have control over everything, but eventually things will go south. However, once you are a PMP certified, this is where your leadership scales. You must understand that when you have the PMP certification, you have the clarity. You are able to envision what all potentially could go wrong. And it's not about wrong always. It's about understanding what opportunities you must realize. You're always outcome driven. You remain calm under pressure. In fact, one of the most important topics in PMP is emotional intelligence. I'll take a moment to talk about this, possibly 20 seconds. But I want to say, imagine that all of you are from Harvard from the same batch. And all of you have been hired, let's say, in one of the global 50 fortune companies. Not all of you will become the CEO. Not all of you will hold the topmost position. Only one of you will hold it. And why is that so? The person who's gonna have high emotional intelligence, obviously, is the right candidate. And that is what is taught when you look at this certification. Yes, emotional intelligence can be learned. It comes with practice. And that's what is taught. How to remain calm under pressure, how to take right decisions, how to make trade-offs, how to ensure that the outcomes are always favorable. Now, this is important, the journey, because this is where most people misunderstand the value of PMP. The real value of PMP is obviously not the certificate on your resume. It's not the badge on LinkedIn, and it's not even the exam that you pass. The real value starts almost immediately. PMP changes how you think. And when I say how you think, it changes how you approach uncertainty, how you frame decisions, how you weigh risks versus value, and how you stop reacting emotionally when pressure builds. You move from doing more to deciding better. That's very important to understand. And others begin to see you differently as well. You're no longer perceived as someone who's possibly busy or just helpful. You're seen as someone who brings clarity, structure, and calm, most importantly when things are messy. Now, that shift from contributor to trusted leader is what actually is going to accelerate your career, not the certificate. Now, this is the real return on investment of PMP. The PMP journey? Yes, it's very important to understand this. This is not a one-time academic exercise. It's not something you get done with and forget. The journey itself mirrors professional growth. So I'll start with the last bullet point, which is continuous growth. When I say this, every 3 years after becoming PMP certified, you're supposed to report 60 professional development units so that PMI can gauge your continuous growth and approve you for the next 3-year cycle. Anyways, coming back to eligibility, you must have either a bachelor's or a master's, and if you have that, you are supposed to be showing 36 months of leading the project experience, and you must have 40 hours of project management education from an authorized training partner. Netcom is one of the most valuable authorized training partners and important ones for PMI. Once you do that, you get into the preparation mode, which is going to take about, in my experience, 45 days, depending upon the kind of work experience that you carry. If you have always used project management framework, obviously your preparation time is going to be much shorter. And if you're someone who's new to this, it should not cross 45 days. If I have to give you the number of hours that you need to put in, all inclusive, it should be about 120 hours to this certification. Once your preparation is done, you can always fill the application, schedule your exam, and write the exam and be a PMP. The best part about Netcom is that we ensure that our relationships do not end after 40 hours of class. It only ends when you become certified. That's what I have always believed in, and that's what I've seen at Netcom. Is PMP hard? Yes, but why? Because real leadership is difficult. The questions that you're going to have on the exam are going to be scenario based, because real life does not give you perfect options. So you will have to have a good judgment. They are judgment focused because leadership is about choosing the least wrong option, not the ideal one. PMP deliberately avoids testing memorization. It tests how you think when information is incomplete or possibly stakeholders disagree and pressure is real. Now, that difficulty is exactly what gives this credential its credibility. And as we come towards the close, this is the most important distinction to remember. PMP is not about clearing an exam. Exams end. PMP is about professional maturity, knowing how to lead without panic. It's about credibility, being trusted with responsibility that matters. And it's about, most importantly, resilience, about staying effective when conditions are uncertain. Now, these are the qualities that compound over time. And that's why PMP continues to matter long after the exam result is forgotten. So the final question, I want to end this webinar with a question, because it's a lens through which everything we discussed makes sense. Are we managing work or leading outcomes? Managing work is about tasks, checklists, and activities. But I'm sure we lead outcomes. Leading outcomes is about clarity, judgment, and accountability. Most professionals are busy managing work. Very few of us are trusted to lead outcomes. And trust me, PMP does not magically promote you, but it trains you to operate at a level where outcomes matter more than effort. So take your time, sit with this question, because your answer to this question to yourself is going to determine your next professional chapter. Anyways, thank you so much. It was lovely having this webinar with all of you. Please ask questions. I'll be more than happy to answer all your questions. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Arun. That was very informative. I know everyone is looking forward to the Q&A session, so go ahead and start putting your questions into the questions panel. And now I'd like to give the presentation rights over to Robin, our vendor manager, to introduce our promotions and webinar-related courses.
I would like to thank you all for attending this webinar. In case you feel like revisiting this webinar for any future reference, please feel free to do so by clicking on the Access Recording button, and we would be more than happy to make the webinar recording available to you. Next, I would like to offer you a glimpse of Netcom Learning's capabilities and why we are the best that there is when it comes to learning services, training, talent development, and beyond. I take pride to announce that Netcom Learning is the winner of 2023 Microsoft US Learning Partner of the Year Award. Netcom Learning has been into the managed learning space for 2.5 decades now and have provided its services to 80% of Fortune 1000 companies. Having a strong reputation in B2G sector, Netcom Learning has served over 100 US military bases. We have trained over 1 million professionals to learn and grow in their respective fields across 36,000 enterprise clients. We also cherish a recommendation rate of 96% from our customers. All the numbers I've just mentioned have been a result of our specially curated trainings delivered by a portfolio of 3,000 plus certified trainers. Moving ahead, being an authorized PMI learning partner, I would like to give you an overview of Netcom Learning's upcoming schedule of courses from PMI that you can see right now on your screen. These courses are highly recommended to expand your horizon and knowledge of project management. Further, to add value to your learning curve, we encourage you to access our free on-demand trainings and blog posts related to project management. We would also highly recommend you go through Netcom Learning's website for more information on courses and certifications, our free virtual events, our blogs, and our running promotions. In case you're looking for a leadership point of view on the importance of lifelong learning and building a smarter workforce, we highly recommend that you go through the book Building an Innovative Learning Organization by Russell Sarder, CEO Netcom Learning. You can easily find this on Amazon. Finally, I sincerely hope that we could add value to your knowledge base in the time you choose to spend with us during this webinar on project management. For more information on such knowledgeable sessions and latest updates on IT and business training, please follow and give us a shout out on our LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter channels. Thank you once again for joining us.
Thanks so much for guiding us through all that information, Robin. And now we're going to go ahead and jump right into our question and answer session. If you haven't yet, it's not too late to pop your questions into the question panel. And as we start our Q&A sessions, we're also going to launch a quick poll that we want to invite you to participate in. Doing so helps us to know how we can better serve you by telling us who might be interested in more information or in taking some additional training. In addition, we have a lot more informative webinars coming up, so please go to netcomlearning.com/webinars in order to register. First question is PMP really relevant if I'm not a project manager by title?
See, titles don't create predictability. Systems do. Many people here may not be called project manager, but if you are someone who's driving outcomes, if you are someone who's coordinating people across functions, if you're someone who's dealing with uncertainty and change, then you are already operating in a project environment. So as I said, PMP is role agnostic. It is a decision-making and accountability framework. And that's why PMP works for everyone. But most importantly, we need to understand the distinction. The people who are outcome oriented. Yes, I would say so that PMP is relevant, even if you don't have a project manager by title, if that makes sense.
Second question. I already have experience. What does PMP really add beyond that?
That's important. I hope you recall that there was a slide in this webinar about the experience trap, right? Experience is not equal to repeatability. Experience tells you what worked once, but PMP teaches you how to make it work again, consistently, across teams, and most importantly, in different contexts. So PMP will ensure that you make things predictable, you have a common leadership language, and you're able to make judgments at scale. So yes, I would say PMP will add these three things, which are very important for a professional to grow in his or her career. These three things are very important: predictability, leadership, and judgment.
And before we wrap it up, we have one last question. Is PMP still relevant in an agile and fast-changing world?
Thank you for asking this question. This is where I'm going to take some time. I'm going to talk about the history, okay? So if you talk about, forget PMP for a moment, but if you talk about in general how projects were delivered, projects majority of the time, and when I talk about projects, I'm talking about projects from manufacturing, I'm talking about projects from construction industry, I'm talking about projects from software development industry. Those were done in a very, very non-agile environment, and those were very successful. But those approaches, or that approach, was very document heavy. Now, when I talk about agile, the foundation of agile is conversation. Yes, PMP is relevant in an agile and fast changing world because most, or rather the modern PMP, is delivery model agnostic. It's about the ease, it's about the comfort, it's about understanding the context better. PMP tells you what is worth building. PMP talks about priorities. PMP ensures that your risks, your funding, your governance, your stakeholders, all of those are managed in an efficient and effective manner. When it comes to agile works brilliantly inside teams. So in my opinion, yes, I would say so, that PMP is still relevant in an agile and fast-changing world. However, just one more line before I, look forward to another question. In today's world, so it all started with, a plan-driven approach, then came the agile approach. But in today's world, we are preferring a hybrid approach where we are trying to have the best of both the worlds, if that answers the question.
Once again, I want to remind you that as you leave the session today, you will be presented with a short survey. We would like to request for you to help us by taking a quick moment to participate in that survey. Your feedback really helps us understand your learning experience as we are constantly looking at how we can improve our future sessions. The survey answers are measured on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 representing outstanding and 1 representing poor. We want to thank all of you for joining us today, and if you do come up with any additional questions, feel free to send them to webinar@netcomlearning.com at any time. We hope that you found today's webinar informative, and we look forward to seeing you back here with us soon. Feel free to tell your friends and colleagues about our webinars and other courses. Have a great day, everyone.